Have you ever experienced the smell of buns and pastries while passing through the street or market before seeing the physical store? Why you smelled it before? This is because the hot particles of food that contains flavor when heat up get excited and add up into the air, and hence we know air is basically consist of gas particles, and the gases have a very random movement, so they will spread out with air particles and hence reach us before we see the physical store of it. So this is due to the movement of particles in air that causes the smell to move far away from the main area. In the same way, when we discuss in liquids how the things will dissolve in liquids is basically the movement of particles in liquids. In liquids, the particles also move very randomly. They don't have any fixed position. So this will help in dissolving different compounds. Like if we add up sugar in tea, the sugar will dissolve in tea without even stirring because the liquid molecules or particles constantly moving around and hence they will dissolve sugar in them. So this process which involves the movement of particles is basically termed under the process of diffusion. So, in our today's lecture, we will discuss the term diffusion, its definition, and their features with respect to kinetic particle theory. We will also explain the rate of diffusion, how it increases or decreases, and what are the factors that will affect the rate of diffusion. So, let's move to our main topic. What is diffusion? First of all, we will discuss the definition of diffusion. Diffusion is basically the movement of particles or molecules from higher gradient or higher concentration towards lower concentration or gradient. So basically, the particles, when present in high amount in any area, will tend to move towards the area where there is less or no amount of that specific particles. We have discussed the movement of particles in liquids and gases, but in very rare cases, we have movement of particles or the process of diffusion seen in solids also. So this is here is gold and this is lead. There are some experiments where scientists have seen when gold and lead are kept for many years, they will diffuse to each other. So, this is a very rare example of diffusion in solids. Another example, which we have studied in physics and also in some branches of chemistry, is semiconductors. Semiconductors are basically the materials which are used in many appliances and applications. So in semiconductor, we used some metals that are very minute in amount and are added to another metal or another functioning alloys. So what are alloys? Alloys are the mixture of particle metals. So when a small metal is added into another metal, it is called doping. And doping specifically increases the efficiency of another metal to perform very well. Like if the function of metal is to conduct electricity or conduct thermal energy or anything. So by adding another metal into it will increase its efficiency. So this process of adding a small amount of metal in layers of another metal is called doping, and this doping of metal is also considered the process of diffusion. So here the zirconium or iron, Zr means zirconium, that is another metal, and ferrous is also the scientific name of iron. So zirconium or ferrous, when doped in different materials, they increase the efficiency of their performance. So here we have discussed the proper definition, and we understand the term that the movement of particles from any area of high concentration towards the area of low concentration is basically known as diffusion. The term diffusion and osmosis are nearly interrelated. Basically, the very minute difference between diffusion and osmosis is basically the presence of semi-permeable membrane. What is semi-permeable membrane? This is a very thin membrane that allows the movement of particles, very selective particles, to move from one area to another. So the process of osmosis will occur under the presence of semi-permeable membrane. Like in osmosis, there occurs the same process. The particles move from the area of high concentration towards the area of low concentration, but in the presence of semi-permeable membrane. But in diffusion, there is no presence of semi-permeable membrane. So this process of osmosis is widely occurred in biological cells, and all these functioning and transportation of hormones and neurons and food particles occur through osmosis and diffusion. But osmosis is widely used in our cell functioning. So let's move to rate of diffusion. What is rate of diffusion? Rate of diffusion is basically the process of diffusion occurs under time frame. Like we have to count or judge how much amount of diffusion occur in 1 minute or 1 second. So we judge the rate of diffusion, the amount of movement of particle from one area to another with respect to time constraint. So the rate of diffusion is basically used in different processes. We use rate of diffusion in different reactions to judge the mass of that specific molecule or compound. Rate of diffusion is highly affected with two factors that basically count increase or decrease in diffusion. The first factor is temperature, and the other factor is mass, atomic mass or molecular mass. So how these affect the rate of diffusion is temperature. As when the temperature is increases, that will increase the kinetic energy of particles. This increase in kinetic energy of particle will cause the molecule or particle move more fastly. So hence increase the rate of diffusion. As we know that diffusion is solely the movement of particle from one area to another. So when there is high temperature, when there is high kinetic energy, when there the molecule will move fastly, the movement of particles from the area of high concentration towards the lower concentration will also increase. The other factor is mass. These two factors affect the diffusion in very opposite way. Like when we increase the mass of any particle, like if we have a particle which have higher mass, it will cause the decrease in kinetic energy and also cause the molecules to move slowly, and hence will decrease the rate of diffusion. If we understand it with some physical examples, like if we throw a small ball towards any other person, if the ball is small, we have to exert small force and it will move very fastly. But if we have to throw a large football or a large piece of wood, it will require high force or high energy, and it will move slowly as compared to this small ball. So in the same way, if the mass of particle is large, They will move slowly, and they require more time to move from one area to another. So hence decreases the rate of diffusion. The process of diffusion is still occurring, but the rate at which the movement occur is slow in the particles which have high mass as compared to the particles which have low mass. Let us discuss it with some example and some more things. So here is table which will give you a clear distinct difference between these two things. When we increase the temperature of our system, this will increase the rate of diffusion. This is due to the exact reason which you have to put in different answers when they ask about in comparison or in different MCQs or in questions like why this will occur, like why the movement of particles in hot day is more as compared to in cold days. You will give the reason. The more thermal energy is converted into kinetic energy, and hence the particles will move more swiftly. In the same way, if the particles of molecule has higher mass, this will again decrease the rate of diffusion. And the reason is the higher mass requires more kinetic energy to move to at the same speed. Hence, they will require more time, and the rate of diffusion will be slowed down. So the temperature and mass factor is basically completely vice versa of each other, opposite to each other. Hence, the temperature factor and mass factor completely opposite in affecting the rate of diffusion. So move to the first example through which I will tell you how the mass affect the rate of diffusion. This is hydrochloric acid, that is HCl, and this is aqueous ammonia, that is NH3. And this is white ring. What is this white ring? White ring is basically the reaction of HCl and ammonia to form ammonium chloride, that is NH3Cl. So when this forms, this will appear as a white ring. So the question arises here, why this white ring will form at this specific point? Why not at this or at this point? So, as we just discussed, that when HCl reacts with NH3, it will form NH3Cl and H plus, and this NH3Cl have white color fumes, and it will be seen from outside of that tube. So, wherever at this tube, at this whole tube, wherever the fumes of HCl and NH3 will come in contact with each other, NH3Cl will form. So at that specific point, NH3Cl and HCl fumes will come in contact with each other, and hence NH3Cl will be formed. This will show us that for this reaction to occur, NH3 have to cover more distance and HCl has covered less distance. So let's go back to the other parts of this whole system. So this is the wooden cork that is present on both ends of this glass tube. Um, Before this wooden cork is cotton which is being soaked in HCl, and here this is the cotton which is soaked in NH3. So the fumes from this cotton will comes out and move. So from this cotton, HCl fumes are moving out, and from this cotton, NH3 fumes or the fumes are particles or of this liquid or this chemical in gaseous form. So they will move towards each other because the other end is already sealed. So this is the only way they can move. This white ring will form here, and they show that the fumes of HCl cover less distance and the fumes of NH3 covers more distance. As the white ring formed near the HCl, so in the same time, the rate of movement of HCl particle from this area to this area is less as compared to the NH3 molecule which move from this area to this area in that specific time. So this is why this occurred. Both are the chemicals and both emit the same fumes. So when we understand the mass of these molecules, how to find out the mass? The mass is basically adding the individual masses of these atoms. So the mass of hydrogen is 1 and the mass of chlorine is 35. So when we add up both masses, we get 36. That is the molecular mass of HCl. Here nitrogen has 14 and hydrogen has 1. There are 3 atoms of hydrogen, so this will be multiplied by 3. 14 plus 3 and we get 17. So this is the mass of ammonia. So here the mass is higher and here the mass is lower. So we have discussed it in our previous slide that when the mass is high, the rate of diffusion will be lower, and when mass is low, the rate of diffusion will be higher. So ammonia being less high in mass or being lighter in weight will move more fastly as compared to HCl, which is heavier as compared to ammonia and move slowly and has a low rate of diffusion. So this is a very practical example to show you people how the mass will affect the rate of diffusion. Another example is here. We have test tubes, one test tube, and this is another test tube. This test tube is empty and this test tube contains bromine gas that is orange or brown in color. We have a paper or a glass lid on above bromine gas. We will invert this test tube which has air in it to work on the top of this test tube, and slowly we will slide out this glass lid, and both open ends of test tube will join each other to form this long glass tube. These are both open ends of test tubes. So after some time, these is empty and this filled with bromine. After some time, this bromine will spread out in whole tube and thus contain all the volume. So this is the process of diffusion. The movement of bromine particles that are higher in this test tube move from this area to this test tube where the particles are zero. So bromine particles move from that area towards this area is process of diffusion. How process occurs under temperature is we will have a stopwatch in our hand, and as the reaction will start, we will start the stopwatch and measure the time. How much time it took bromine to move from this area to this one area, yeah, and we will note it. It's probably 1 minute under room temperature. And when we repeat the same process under high temperature, under 45 degrees Celsius or higher, this same process will occur in 5 seconds. So this is how the temperature affect the rate of diffusion. By increasing the temperature, the rate of diffusion increased. So here are some more examples to understand the process of diffusion. This is perfume, and when the perfume is it spread out evenly, and slowly the whole room will fill with the same smell. So how perfumes are made? Perfumes are being made with different chemicals. These chemicals are basically volatile liquids. What are volatile liquids? These are the liquids which can convert into gas very readily. So when we spray the perfume, some particles will remain in liquid form and some will convert into gas very abruptly. So the particles which convert into a gas are basically volatile liquids. The other thing which you have noticed, that perfumes are made with different chemicals and they have different notes. Like some perfumes have rose as base note, some have sandalwood, some have jasmine. So each note will come after some time. Like when you just separate the perfume, the smell would be different, and after some time you smell a different note. So how these different notes appear and smelled is basically the rate of diffusion of these volatile liquids. The liquid which will diffuse very quickly, which have lighter in mass, will diffuse more rapidly, and you smell the that exact liquid very firstly. After some time, when the other particles or other liquids will diffuse with respect to their masses, we will smell different notes as well. The other example, the other example are the perfumed plants. Some plants have flowers that have very specific smell. The smell will also separate out in that area. How this will separate? You know the answer. This is due to diffusion. The particles which contain smell of these flowers, when enter into the air, undergoes diffusion and hence separate out toward all area. This is the hot food. This have a characteristic smell, and this smell will be separate out around that area or around the table in which it is present. Because it is hot, it will spread out more easily. But if this food is cold, it will not have that strong smell. So the hot particles will have more smell and they spread out more easily due to diffusion and due to the temperature factor. These are some examples which we have discussed. For some more example, you should consult the link that is just under my video, where you will find more practice question and more examples. So as we have complete our lecture, we will do some practice question as we have done it in our previous videos as well. So what you have to do is read the question and pause the video, answer it according to your understanding, and then tally it with my answer, where you lag and where you missed the exact point. So the first question is, using KPT, explain why we are able to smell the food as it being cooked. So by relating it to the kinetic particle theory, which we have discussed before, and we have discussed in this video as well, where we discuss the movement of particle and position, you should also relate it with KPT and tell or explain very briefly like how the smell of the food we are able to smell it while it is being. The answer of this question is, when the food is cooked, the particles of food, you can also skip this word. These are aromatic particles. Aromatic particles are the particles which contains aroma or the smell of the food. Enter the air as gas particle, which we have discussed it before. According to the KPT, kinetic particle theory, gas particles are far apart, this is their position, and move randomly at high speed. And here we are explaining the movement of gas particles. These particles have enough kinetic energy to diffuse quickly through the air. So they have a high kinetic energy, their nature is to move randomly, so they will diffuse very quickly through the air. So as a result, the gas particles spread out and reach our nose. That is why we are able to smell the food while it is being cooked. So we have answered this question with respect to KPT. So let's move to the next question. The next question is, air fresheners are commonly used when odors are detected in a room. Would you expect the fragrance to be stronger on a warmer day or a cooler day? Explain your answers. On a very congested area, we smelled very sometimes very bad odors of sweat or anything other. So to freshen the environment or the air, we use air fresheners, and their freshener clean the air or make that bad odor suppress, and this good air or the fragrance will spread out in all that area. So the question is, what would you think the fragrance of that air freshener will be stronger in warmer day or a cooler day? Here you will discuss this part with respect to the temperature factor. So explain your answer. Just pause the video and write your answer what you think would be, and after some time after we finish, unpause the video and tally it with my answer. So the answer is the fragrance would be stronger on a warmer day. According to KPT, here we also give the reference of KPT. Why we repeatedly give references from KPT, kinetic particle theory? This is because when we write our answers with reference to KPT, it will prove and it will authenticate that answer, because KPT is a very valid theory. So you should refer it in your answer as much as you can. So, according to kinetic particle theory, when temperature increases, particles gain more kinetic energy. This makes the fragrance particle move faster, because when the kinetic energy is high, particles will move faster and diffuse more quickly through the air. So, as a result, scents will spread faster and become stronger in a room on warmer day as compared to the cooler day. So, this is all about this lecture, and I hope you enjoy this lecture and you understand all these things. If you have any suggestion, any comment, or any question, you can write it below in the comment section, and we will meet in our next video. Thank you.